Hello and welcome to another episode of Thick Slices and Deep Cuts. This evening I will be discussing a band from the Netherlands, a Dutch, progressive, metalcore, gent, death metal, all of these types of things. Talking about a band that's fairly unknown, Textures. So the band is Textures out of Holland, a Dutch band, formed I think back in about '01. They put out 5 albums, just 5 albums. I thought they were really awesome in their time, and they actually disbanded at the very end of 2017. I still wasn't able to find out what reasons, but 5 albums. Lots of lineup changes, but just an awesome band. I think when I listen to them, they fall somewhere between, just for reference points, I mean, they're their own thing, but they fall somewhere between like a Gojira and Meshuggah. Not quite as insane as Meshuggah when it comes to the rhythms, but certainly a little more polyrhythmic than maybe Gojira. So somewhere in there. And they even they call themselves polyrhythmic metal, and I can go with that. And again, it's hard to quite pinpoint what they are because they do some singing stuff. They're definitely a progressive band. I wouldn't say they are a classic gent band, although I know when that gent scene kind of formed in like '08, '09, '10, right in there, I think they cited bands like Canvas Solaris and Textures as bands that, helped, along with obviously Meshuggah, helped kind of influence this whole polyrhythm thing. These guys don't use 8-string guitars like the Genters, but they do use the 7-string. So just a really cool, heavy band. I think one of the things, they never had the same lineup from album to album. So as we go through this, I'll let you know the key lineup changes, but never the same lineup on back-to-back albums. Let's see, what else? I've got a few notes here, but for whatever reason, they're not on Encyclopedia Metallum. I mean, they're on Prog Archives, but they're not on Encyclopedia Metallum. I mean, bands like Journey are on Encyclopedia Metallum, and you can't find a spot for this band on there. So there you go. So this should be a fairly quick episode. They've got 5 albums, no EPs. I'll talk about a couple of things when we're done here ranking, but really they just have the 5 albums. And so all of these are really good. And my top 2 kind of are separated from the rest. I kind of knew my top 2. I kind of knew my 5. So really the only, and I listened to everything, but the only one I had to struggle with was what was going to be 3 and what was going to be 4. But so let's just get right to it. Coming in at number 5, and this is a slightly different album cover from the original, but I have their debut from '03. I have Polars. This is the 10th anniversary special edition. They remastered it, remixed it. Super promising debut. They have a singer that's only on this album. He's more higher pitched. Probably my least favorite of the vocalists, but it's not bad. And I think the reason this one is 5th, I just think a lot of things, like the singer maybe. I think the production's good. It's maybe not quite as lush as some of their other ones. I think, they've got, this song called Heave at the end, which is just like 14 minutes of ambience. And the title track, Polars, which is awesome, and it's like 18 plus minutes, and it goes back and forth between the heavy polyrhythmic stuff and the ambient stuff, so it kind of goes back and forth, so that's kind of cool, and I do dig that vibe on here. They're really into the ambient thing on the first album. Swan Dive opens it all up, and the thing I love about these guys is, while they're kind of doing this like genty metalcore, progressive death metal thing, they totally, they're just straight up thrashing at times, kind of like Creator, but even faster. Super technical. Young Man's probably my favorite track on here. The Barrier is good. Everything on here is good. Ostensibly Impregnable. So everything on here is very cool. Like I said, Heave, I'm not sure what to make of a 14-minute outro track. It's just all like super bone basic ambience, but I do like the fact that they mix in the ambience, and that's another thing I'll get. I guess I can get that out of the way now. The thing I love about their keyboard players is they fit the name of the band, Textures. Most keyboard players will sit there and show you how great they are playing pianos and synthesizers, and the keyboardists in this band did a really great job of just providing ambience and just like enhancing what was already going on. I mean, you've already got twin guitars doing crazy stuff. You've already got a drummer doing syncopated stuff. You've already got a vocalist singing and growling and doing everything. You've probably got bass moving around. You really don't have any more room for a keyboard player to do his thing. So I love that the keyboards are always just like this ambient like layer that just kind of provides this like subliminal ear candy to everything. So I really prefer that that style of keyboard work in this band. Yeah, notable, this lineup notable for the singer who was only on this album, Peter. And by the way, these guys are Dutch. Other than Steph Brooks, the drummer, I'm not going to try to pronounce any of their last names, so we'll just go with first names. But, you know, this is notable for just having the one album to feature Peter on vocals. The band basically formed with Bart on guitars, Joachim on the other guitar, and Steph Brooks on drums. Richard was their original keyboard player. Who was the other guy? I wrote it down somewhere on here. Dennis was their original bass player. So that was the original lineup. So there you go, coming in at number 5. Really excellent, promising album. It's coming in at number 5, but I enjoyed listening to it once again. And I would say that Young Man is probably the coolest track. It's just, this is really good too, and they do this throughout their career, but they just have these heavy, strange rhythmic riffs, and then they add like this like ear candy clean channel guitar, like just kind of permeates the heavy riffing. Very cool. And then you've got the ambient factor on here too to go with it. So there you go. At number 5, their debut from '03, I have Polars. Okay. This was tough to put at 4. I was trying to put it at 3, but I was trying to put 2 things at 3. So ultimately, this fell to 4th, but I remember digging the crap out of this when it came out in 2011. This is their 4th album, Dualism. So this is their first album with Daniel on vocals. So they had 3 vocalists over 5 albums. This was their first album, their 4th album overall, and the first to feature Daniel on vocals. I think they got Yuri on keyboards at this point. So I think those are the 2 lineup changes here. Just really cool stuff. Arms of the Sea is a great way to open it. I don't know how to explain it. They just come in with a strange riff, and the new vocalist is basically throwing down, letting you know, hey, I'm the new guy, and here's what I have to offer. And he's just yelling up a storm and just screaming his head off. And then he goes into a cool melodic part with this awesome guitar riff behind it. One of the best riffs they've ever done. One of the coolest songs. That's Arms of the Sea. Reaching Home is cool. That's more of an accessible one. You know, if this stuff's almost too technical and whatnot, they've got a video for Reaching Home. That's pretty straightforward, at least by their standards. It's still very progressive. You know, I don't even know if there's any harsh vocal in that song. There might be, but it just seems like it's all clean vocal and a little bit more 4/4 type stuff, but still syncopated. You know, Consonant Hemisphere starts out really great. There's some other ones. Singularity's pretty good. Burning the Midnight Oil is an awesome instrumental, one of their best tracks. Minor Earth, Major Skies, Foreclosure into Sketches from a Motionless Statue. That's the name of the final track. So this is really good as well. You know, I wanted to put it 3. Something had to come in at 4, but I think this is another solid album from the band. I think every album the band did was solid. You know, they may not have a drop-dead masterpiece, but everything they did was really solid. And this is no exception. I think it's just 4th because there are, you know, what does this have, 11 tracks? There are probably 4 tracks that I probably skip over, you know, here and there. It's probably got 4 awesome tracks, you know, 3 really good tracks, and 3 or 4 that I don't really know what to do with. But, you know, I'll take that on an album, especially with these guys and what they're doing with all the syncopation and the layering and the heavy riffs with, you know, with the ambience and everything else. So this is a band that's totally, you know, right up my alley here. So there you go. Another awesome album. Coming in at number 4, their 4th album from 2011. I've got Dualism. This is a great example of their great polyrhythmic. So coming in at number 3, this is their 5th and final album from 2016. I have Phenotype. We heard Oceans Collide, the opening track of this album that opened the show. New Horizons is great. Shaping a Single Grain of Sand is great. There's a video for that. Illuminate the Trail, Erosion, The Fourth Prime, Timeless. All of these, this is an incredible production. Let's see, Daniel is on here for the vocals once again. I think the notable change here is that Joachim, one of the founding members, stepped aside, and Joe Tao is now the other guitar player along with Bart. So that's the one lineup change here. I just think this is a solid album. It's a little bit shorter at 43 minutes by their standards, but I think it works because they just get right to the... Everything is worthwhile. I mean, they have a meander, it's like a little interlude, but if you take that out, you still got, 41 minutes of music, so 42. So basically, if you take that out, you've got eight songs. And Yuri's great at doing the textural keyboard stuff. Just providing ultimate ambient ear candy on this one. That's probably why I moved this to third above Dualism, just because I think the production is incredible here. And plus, I'm not skipping tracks here. There aren't as many tracks as Dualism, but I'm also not skipping any of them. And it's probably their last album. I hope something happens and they reform. This was supposed to be part of a double album, or they were going to release something called Genotype, which was a 40-minute song or a 40-minute piece, and that was going to be the second album, and it was going to be basically a double album, but they decided to break the band up in 2017, so they never released it, which I sure wish they would release that. It would be awesome. But again, I think everything on here is great. They do save a spot called Zaman for Yuri, the keyboard player, so basically they reward him by playing in the background an ambient, textural, and totally in the background, they reward him by giving him a 3-minute piece to do some piano work. So, but just another excellent album. Again, if you like, just bands that have these heavy, complicated riffs and everything's layered and it's pretty complex, and you never know if they're gonna growl or do vocals or do an actual song like the one we're listening to now. It's just a very cool band, unpredictable. The drumming, if you're into the drumming stuff, Brooks is one of the best. 7-string guitar work, all those elements in place here. So there you go. Coming in at number 3, their 5th and final album from 2016, I have Phenotype, which leaves the final 2 here. And the final 2 were basically the first 2 I got into as well. But coming in at number 2, this is their second album from 2006. I have Drawing Circles. This is the first one to feature vocalist, I'll just say Eric Kalsbeek, but we'll just go with Eric. He was on 2 albums. He's my favorite vocalist that the band had. I think it's because he is my favorite vocalist of the 3, but I also think the songwriting, the songs, he was there for the 2 albums that had all of the songs. And their style, everything kind of lined up during his time with the band. But Drive into Regenesis is incredible. Denying Gravity, we just heard. That's incredible. There's this incredible polyrhythmic thing going on where you think you know where the beat is and then it just shifts on you. Stream of Consciousness, Upwards, Millstone, Touching the Absolute, Surreal State of Enlightenment. Touching the Absolute, if you like them just playing up straight up jazz fusion, they're weaving jazz fusion melodies like Alan Holdsworth style stuff right into the texture's heaviness. So very progressive band too. That's probably what draws me to them as much as anything, is that one, I just, it's no secret, I love heavy, crushing guitar riffs, but I also like things that are just super progressive, and forget the heavy factor. If you just like your music highly advanced and progressive, that's what these guys are also bringing to the table there. And then, by the way, it's atmospheric too. They're always focusing on ambience too. So there you go. This was probably the second album I got into from them. So coming in at number 2, their second album from 2006, I have Drawing Circles. So coming in at number 1, this was their third album, the middle album from 2008. I have Silhouettes. My case has a crack in it there, but this one, just all of the songs, the production, everything seems to line up here. We're listening to Messengers from the album as we speak. Old Days Born Anew, The Sun's Architect, Awake they have a video for, Laments of an Icarus, One Eye for 1,000 is great, State of Disobedience, Storm Warning, Messengers, and To Erase a Lifetime. So this is just a great album. It's about 9 songs, about 50 minutes or so. It's just really good. Probably them at the height of their powers as far as it just seems like the songs are so much more memorable here. It's still highly aggressive and highly technical, but the songs are memorable. It's more memorable on this than I think obviously in any other album. That's why I have it at number 1. But I don't know if Textures has hits, but if they do, they're all pretty much on this album. This was the second and final one with Eric on vocals. I think they switched bass players. They went from Dennis to Remco on bass, so that was the one lineup change for this, was they switched bass players. So just like every album, they've got at least one lineup change. But I just think it all comes together here. The production's great. His vocals are great. He's the best. He's the best singer. I think he's also the best growler for the band. I think their productions during that time just really worked. The way the drums are mic'd, the way the guitars sound. I also feel that way about Phenotype, but it's different at that point. Phenotype is 8 years after this, 10 years after Drawing Circles. So that's another thing. You could say this is sort of a phase, the Eric phase, but these albums are this is like the precursor to this. And then these are somewhat relatable as well. But so there you go. Coming in at number 1, I've got Messengers, or not Messengers, we just heard that song, but I have Silhouettes from '08. So just quickly to recap of the 5 here, I've got number 5, I've got their debut, Polars. At number 4, I have their 4th album from 2011, I've got Dualism. Number 3 from 2016, I have their 5th and final album, Phenotype. Number 2, I have their 2nd album from '06, Drawing Circles. And at number 1, from '08, their 3rd album, Silhouettes. So it's pretty, short and sweet on this review. But one other thing, they do have one video. It's called Last Miles to the Moon. And it was filmed, I believe, in their hometown of Tilburg, Netherlands, at the end of 2017. I want to say it was their last show, but I almost think that they actually technically went to India and did one more big show in India. But basically, this was them going, hey, we're going to break up, but before we break up, we want to do one final thing for the fans. So there is a video out there. I've seen some clips of it. It looks perfectly legitimate, and it looks like they cover a lot. And even though Daniel is their singer, Eric comes back to do some guest vocals, and I think even Joachim is there too for some of the video as well. So kind of a reunion of sorts, and they cover all the material from all the albums. Here's that more polyrhythmic. This is Burning the Midnight Oil from Dualism. Another good one. Other than that, I think, I'm not sure what I got into first, but Steph Brooks did a side project, sort of an instrumental, progressive, fusion-y thing called, for the first Exvius album, with Timon and Robin, who were part of Cynic during the Traced Air cycle. They were in Cynic, and when I guess that ended, they formed Exvius with Steph on drums for this album. Yeah, this is really good too. I really enjoy this. I miss Exvius. They only did 2 albums, but then they turned into a band called Our Oceans, which is a bit different, but really dig Exvius. By the way, the Dutch, very underrated scene in the Netherlands. I reviewed Asphyx earlier on. That's classic old school death doom, but Pestilence and so many good bands. But and Exvius is progressive fusion. But you don't want to forget about a band like Textures. I think they're they disbanded. I think they went fairly unnoticed, which is too bad because I think they really had a lot to offer. And again, you never know. Maybe they'll either A, reform at some point, or 2, they'll release that 40-minute piece called Genotype to go with Phenotype. But so I think that covers all of it. Yeah, so there you go. Short and sweet this week. The ones before this were like ranking 11 albums, and I know the one I'm going to be doing next week has 11 albums as well. But this one was just simply 5 albums, no EPs, just the 1 live video and the 1 side project. But so there you have it. That is ranking the albums of Dutch, heavy, progressive, polyrhythmic metal band Textures from Holland. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.